Okay guys, it's the real deal. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Spider-Man for PS4 is a fucking banger. I have lost sleep, I have lost water intake, human interaction, I have an actual headache because I've lived off of beer and sandwiches made of processed meat for the past 2 days. I am not in good shape right now, people. But the overarching question of this video is, was all that pain worth it? Even though I just answered that question within the first minute. But the first order of business, the question that everybody has in their mind, just to get it out of the way, is it better than both Spider-Man 2 and Ultimate Spider-Man? Yes. Yes, it is. I'm not trying to insult those games, but those games were from 2 generations ago and were made with a completely different objective. Just make the swinging good and the boss battles good. That's it. They were made in a completely different gaming climate. This Spider-Man game has been made in a world with a ridiculous amount of open world games that have completely evolved past the PlayStation 2 era. And you think as the genre was evolving both in story and gameplay, Spider-Man would have evolved. But he really hasn't. Most open world Spider-Man games have been the same thing, with the same side objectives, and even a lot of the same villains and story beats, with nothing really new to change it. Okay, so moving on from insulting games from over a decade old, let's talk about Spider-Man himself, or more specifically, Peter Parker. And let's be honest, people, no game has completely gotten the Peter Parker aspect of Spider-Man correct. The closest we've got to an amazing Peter Parker is, funnily enough, Ultimate Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. They got really close, but I don't think they really hit the mark. But this game, dear God. Now, without spoiling anything major, I'm going to give you an example of how good the Peter Parker writing in this game is. There's a subplot that starts right from the first cutscene of the game, and it's about Peter not being able to pay his rent. This culminates to a mission about 5 to 6 hours into the game, where Peter gets evicted and has to hunt down his belongings in trash trucks. The entire mission is literally just Spider-Man on the phone with a trash man, looking for his stuff and thinking out loud about where he's going to sleep tonight since he's been evicted. I mean, name what other game has done that. That is an amazing balance for both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Also, Peter is just likable in this game. I don't know what happened recently, but Peter is either being young and naive or a whiny asshole. The first one isn't bad per se, but I'm glad that we finally have a game focused on a Spider-Man in his prime, but a Peter who's still working out some kinks in his personal life. Okay, so a lot of early reviews said that this isn't the longest Spider-Man game or that the story isn't that long, and I went, okay, and I went on my merry way. I bought the actual game, and about 5 to 6 hours into the game, there is a big incident. Like, the shit definitely hits the fan incident, and a lot of crazy stuff had happened before that. So when this incident happens, 2 thoughts pop into my head. Number 1, they can do that in a Spider-Man game? And number 2, this must be the beginning of the climax. I mean, the hero knows who the villain is, the villain's done this thing, this incident's happened. But no, it was the inciting incident. I thought the inciting incident already happened in the beginning with Kingpin's arrest, but okay, I was wrong. Nonetheless, the point is, guys, the internet lied. This game is kind of long for Spider-Man standards, and even just superhero game standards in general. It took me a little over a day and a half of nothing but playing the game, and 1 6 to 7 hour rest in between to beat the story. Also, to say that they took time and they cared when writing the Spider-Man story is a bit of an understatement. Of course, I'm not going to go into spoilers at all here. I have a whole video prepared for that. But I just wanted to praise the story for those who had their doubts. Like, there's actual cinematography in scenes, there's scene transitions, it's kind of freaking ridiculous. And the writing is top notch, it's some of the best I've seen in a Spider-Man game. Story beats, moments, and straight up character arcs are ripped from other forms of Spider-Man media, making it an actual blast if you're a fan like me. Mary Jane isn't a background this character waiting to be saved, she's actually going behind enemy lines and getting information. You also get to play as her sometimes, it's pretty cool. Mr. Negative is finally a main villain in a Spider-Man game, and holy shit, he's an actual threat. But he's also extremely interesting as well. I never knew anything about Mr. Negative, but ever since I saw that little cameo thing in the Amazing Spider-Man game, I've been waiting to see him as a main villain so I could learn more about him, and he did not disappoint. Peter isn't just a goody two-shoes who does no wrong. He is a person with inner conflict and choices that he has to make. There are 2 choices at the very end of the game that made me feel sad but it's also just pure Spider-Man. And that's the only way I can describe this game holistically, is just pure Spider-Man. From the acrobatic-like gameplay, to the amazing web swinging, to the amount of amazing suits that tops the Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's just pure Spider-Man. So I personally believe if you give a shit about Spider-Man and you've been craving a Spider-Man game for PS4, get this. Get this now. Or, just avoid the internet until the games goes on sale in 8 or 9 months. Who the fuck am I kidding? Buy it right now. I mean, come on. You can finally high-five New Yorkers. 100 out of 10. Fuck Spider-Man 2.